And we're back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960. So very glad that you could start your work week. Look, I just took a week off and my mouth just isn't quite working. Work week with us right here on the Mark Petroni Show. Well, we have our Bitcoin aficionado, our Bitcoin guru, our Bitcoin sort of expert, enthusiast, whatever word you want to use. He's our go-to guy. He's Benjamin Dichter. And I have to say that some holders of Bitcoin, I'm not talking about long-term people. I'm talking about people who just got in, right? Maybe from listening to you, Benjamin, and they're going, I just bought some Bitcoin and it just got hammered last week. Went from like low $60,000 US to like somewhere around 57,000. I mean, that's a hit for some people. They don't have the stomach for it. And maybe your take, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you will, if somebody can't handle that kind of volatility, then, buy a, bond or something like that. Maybe Bitcoin is not for you if you have a heart condition. But for others, Bitcoin is a long-term play. And by the way, you're not buying a stock, and Benjamin is going to weigh in on all of this stuff. Welcome, my friend.
It's good to see you.
Okay, well, do you watch the price on a regular basis, or do you care?
Not really. I mean, periodically. What was interesting is, what's that guy's name? Kevin O'Leary, the
Yeah, of
boat
course.
captain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't get me
So,
sued, man.
I know, I'm just kidding.
He's got way more money than either one of us.
Well, anyways, he when he got into the market, I don't understand why anybody cared, but okay, some people cared for some reason. And first he started like everybody else, he bashed it. Oh, it's a pyramid scam, blah, 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 blah. Then he finally understood it. And one of his more recent statements was, I don't like the volatility, but I understand the volatility is where the gains are. And after a while, you get used to it. And that's true. It was true for me as well when I got into it. You buy it and then boom, it goes down. And then it eventually will recover. But when it recovers big because there's more people getting onto the network. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bitcoin usually has on average 10 days a year where it really peaks. So when you messaged me, last week or something like that, oh, there's a major spike in Bitcoin and it was up 8%, and
I
I laughed
remember.
and I said,
I know
that's
your
not a
reaction.
spike.
Yeah, exactly. Well, your reaction was, that's not a spike. I mean,
That's
can
right.
you imagine if that happened to gold? It's like Peter Schiff would be doing cartwheels. People would be going nuts. Gold holders would be like, it would be like Christmas and New Year's and everything else rolled into one.
Yeah, a spike is when you double your money in a day. Like, that's a spike, you know.
Well, that's insane. No, I mean, look, it doesn't have to double the spike. I mean, like a stock, if a stock goes up, say 5%, 5% in a day, that's, in a lot of circles, that is considered a spike. Like if Apple, for instance, went up 5%, or if Amazon, or if one of those tech stocks went up like, 5, 6, 7%.
Did you just say stock? I thought I heard you just say stock. Because I thought
I
we
did.
decided it's not a stock.
It's not a stock.
That's right. So this just comes with the territory. This is just how we're all going to learn how to think about these digital assets as they're new and they come onto the scene. I see but like, I'm specifically talking about Bitcoin. All the other stuff is highly speculative. Bitcoin is, well, still speculative, but there's a lot of argument about this. Is Bitcoin a speculative asset, or is it an asset? Is it a speculative play, or is it an investment? And the thing is, you can also use this asset to earn interest. So not only are you earning money as the network effect grows and more people on board and the value of each individual coin goes up, but you also could at the same time earn interest on that Bitcoin if you open, a BlockFi account or something like that. So The volatility just comes with the territory, man. That's just the way it is. Get used to it.
Okay. Oh, so so that's your advice. Just deal with it.
Just
But
deal with it.
but
You
just
know,
get some. And would you advise people not to even bother looking at the price? Just ignore it.
look at it periodically. Have an idea where, like, the thing is, you're not using it. It's not your daily cash flow yet. You know, at some point, it might be the underlying asset of your daily cash flow somewhere near in the future. But for us in the Western world, most of us are not really using it as a daily currency. Some people are. I know some people who basically live off of Bitcoin and they're traveling all over the world, right? But for most people who are amongst your audience, they're looking for it as an investment play over the long term. I wouldn't worry about the price too much.
All right.
Worry
Can we?
about how much Bitcoin you hold. That's the key. Do you have a quarter of a coin, a tenth of a coin, something like that? That's what's important.
All right. Let's play. Pay me in Bitcoin. The Tampa mayor. Tampa mayor. Now she's the latest. Not far from where I am right now, as a matter of fact. So she says, "I'm cool with being paid in Bitcoin." Uh, what do you think about that? Does it give you some hope that people are coming around slowly but surely to the idea? I mean, we can also talk about Hillary Clinton coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm worried about Bitcoin. I'm worried about crypto because it's undermining the legitimacy of fiat currencies like the greenback, like the loonie, like the euro." So I guess she's going to look at something like this, at what this Tampa mayor says, and she said, "Well, that's bad because you're legitimizing crypto." What do you think of all this?
Is Hillary Clinton still alive? I didn't know that. I mean, I still don't care what she says, even if she is dead, right? But I didn't care when she was alive. Um, I mean, it gives me some solace to know that not only do you have the mayor of Tampa who's now on board, as well as the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, and the mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, they're all taking their salaries in Bitcoin, and you can start to see some pension funds, retirement funds are now buying Bitcoin. The oldest insurance company, and this is the old insurance company in the United States, is now investing in Bitcoin. So Peter Schiff must be losing his mind trying to warn all these people. But you know why it gives me some solace that all these people in government are getting involved in it?
Why?
People, now I know this is going to blow your mind. People in
Everything you
government,
say blows my mind.
I know. People in government are corrupt.
By the way, how do you like
Now,
my new set?
the Archie Bunker lazy boy,
Yeah, I
yes.
know the answer to this question, and I would not be
Is
asking.
Is that because you put too much money in Bitcoin and they took your studio from you?
I can't believe this is really the Archie Bunker set to you. I mean, honestly, bro, not cool.
Well, anyways, so the point is,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
people in government are corrupt. Now, I know that's shocking. The greatest capitalist in the United States is Nancy Pelosi, who has
What?
year over year return on her investments of 69% of her portfolio. She
Yeah, but
was
she's
worth
a
something.
crook.
Well, exactly. Because she's in the government. They're all crooks. And if these crooks are investing and throwing their money and taking their payments in Bitcoin, that's my rationality that, all right, this is probably a safe asset because they know a lot of what's going on behind the scenes that the general public doesn't know. Nancy Pelosi is now worth something like $220 million
Is she
because
ever
of
going
all
to
this.
go away? I mean,
No, she's never going to stop. She's going to be like Skeletor from He-Man. That'll just be bones, and they'll roll her out. You know.
she's gonna.
So,
I think this is no. I think this is it for her. She's not going to run again. I'm
oh, she
really.
will. Oh, she
Yeah.
will. Oh,
Seriously.
she'll will. She will. She'll continue. Too many mouths to feed, right?
Okay,
So
so we're
yeah.
here. But okay, so we got to talk about Jordan Peterson. There's another guy. He was tweeting out recently that
Mhm.
you know inflation is reality, but I'm going to buy Bitcoin. But got to add to my Bitcoin collection. So here's a guy who's considered, I don't know, small c conservative libertarian type of guy, freedom fighting person. He probably would disagree with my characterization of him. That's fine, but that's the way largely, a lot of people are perceiving Jordan Peterson. And he's, you know, getting more Bitcoin. He's seeing inflation going up 4 or 5%. And so now we're hearing that, if you don't get a raise of 6%, a wage hike, then you're losing money because the value of your cash is deteriorating. So no wonder this mayor of Tampa is saying, "Hey, I'm happy with I'll take Bitcoin right now." So I think the more inflation becomes a reality in the lives of people and they realize that the money that they have, the cash that they have is losing value, they're going to start looking more and more seriously at crypto. What do you think?
I think part of it is the democratization of knowledge that comes from the internet.
I don't know what
That
that means. What is that?
what basically, if you look, if you look back generation, you know exactly what that means. Stop it. If you look back generations ago, where I think we discussed before, Henry Ford was the one who said if people understood how the monetary system works, they would be out with their pitch and forks and overturning the government. Well, now because of the democratization of knowledge, because of the internet, because we
Mhm.
all know stuff, and it's caused people to go down the rabbit hole of monetary policy and understand monetary policy. They understand it's just a shell game, that it's just nonsense. It's fake funny money that's constantly being printed, at least since 71, since we abandoned the gold standard, right? So everybody's looking for something safe to put their money into. Everybody's worried about a stock market crash. They don't know that the asset inflation that we're suffering right now, is that sustainable? It wasn't in 2008. So when is your house going to be deep? Like, I had a friend in Miami. Speaking of Miami, he had his house when he bought it, in the mid 2000s. He bought it for 1.8 million. It was on the water. It hit 3.6 or 3.8 million dollars because I remember he was complaining about his value assessment
Yeah.
like 3 years later. And then after it crashed and he had to sell it because of a divorce, he sold it for $900,000. That was in a period of 18 months, right? So people are looking around at all these things and they're saying, well, if the whole monetary system is just a shell game, what
Mhm.
else is? What can I trust?
Well, okay.
And
So you want to talk real estate? You
uh,
want to talk GTA real estate? But
yeah,
before that, no, you know what? Let's do it now. Let's talk about when you look at the real estate market, and I know you, and I don't know to what degree you want to go there, but you're becoming sort of a virtual person in terms of your assets, right? You are digitizing your assets. Is that the right word?
I'm pretty much a minimalist. Yeah.
But your wealth, your holdings are
Yeah.
largely in crypto
Hmm.
and they're in the cloud, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has, a diversified portfolio of assets, but I definitely have crypto assets, if that's what you're asking. Yes, for sure.
Do you like real estate as an asset right now?
For me, no, because I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't trust that I'm going to be in Canada for much longer, maybe a couple of years. I don't know. I haven't decided. If this nonsense keeps going, um, this slide towards socialism and extreme socialism, communism, what do you want to call it, continues, I'm out of here. I was living in Colombia when Chavez was in power, threatening to go to war with Colombia every 2 weeks. When the Canadian idiot politicians, these airheads, were celebrating him as a freedom fighter. So everything that I saw going on in Venezuela is happening now in Canada. I'm just not going to stick around for that. The line in the sand for me to say, okay, now I'm out of here. It's just a matter of when. Was with these Bolshevik passports from Doug Ford, who brought them in. Just so we're clear, those are Doug Ford's passports and Jason Kenney's passports. So this is not left wing; these are conservatives who are doing this. Um, Once I saw that, it's just okay. We're going to have to scale down as much as possible and think about a plan to possibly get out of here in a couple of years. And because I've lived down there, I'll probably be out of here within. So because of that, I don't want to be tied down with real estate and the potential volatility of a real estate market that is so inflated because asset prices are inflated because of all these treasury printings. What happens is it collapses. So now I'm tied to a communist government run by an airhead who has no idea what's going on around him. And I'd be tied to a real estate market that, as far as I'm concerned, is not stable. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll inflate to infinity and we'll all be going to McDonald's and getting a Big Mac combo for $3,000. Maybe that's where we're going. But I saw that happen in Venezuela in the past. And the hedge for me is to throw it into a digital asset. And the most stable of all the digital assets is Bitcoin. That's why I'm doing that.
Got to take a quick time out. Hang in for one more segment, okay? Back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960 after this brief commercial break. Don't go away. And we are back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960. Back with Benjamin Dichter. He's our crypto go-to guy. And it's not just crypto. I mean, this is like, crypto is a phenomenon that doesn't just exist in a vacuum. I mean, crypto exists because of all the other stuff going on. And you talked a little bit about the real estate bubble. You talked a little bit about communists like Justin Trudeau. You talked about conservatives that are acting like communists, or maybe they really are communists who just call themselves conservatives, like Doug Ford and Jason Kenney and all these people who brought in lockdowns, who brought in vaccine certificates, aka passports, who are changing Canada in a way that freedom-loving people don't like. And a lot of them are heading for the exits, Benjamin, including people possibly like yourself. You're looking around at what's going on. You're born in Canada, right?
That's right.
So you've probably lived in Canada for a good chunk of your life, but you've also lived in other countries and you've seen this movie before in places like Venezuela. I'm not saying Canada is going to go through the same thing as Venezuela, but I can't help but wonder if Justin Trudeau isn't looking at Venezuela as kind of a model. Like, hey, Maduro and before him, Chavez, may he rest in hell, they reduced that country to rubble. They raped the crap out of it, destroyed the economy, and made themselves billionaires in the process. He's probably thinking, well, if Maduro could get away with it, why can't I?
The mistake you make is you put the words Justin Trudeau and thinking in the same sentence. Justin Trudeau doesn't think, and I know from somebody on the inside of that party, he has zero involvement in the government. Absolutely nothing. It's run by his staff and PMO. So Jerry Butts is running the country. Katie Telford is running the country. That's how they operate. Does Jerry Butts look at Venezuela?
Justin, excuse me, but Justin is going along for the ride. So to me, he's complicit. You know, he may be a puppet, but he's a willing puppet. He's a happy puppet. You know, he's not a guy who's saying, well, no, I don't like what's going on here. I'm not going to be a party to it. He's saying, yeah, I want in for sure. You know, I don't know.
Well, I think that requires an IQ higher than single digits. And I just don't think he's capable of that. Like, I don't think he understands not only complex situations and complex tasks, he doesn't understand things on the most basic and simplistic level. He's an airhead. He's probably a great dad. He's probably a fun guy to play dress up with during Halloween. That's about it. That's all there's nothing inside of there. So can I get angry at that? Yeah, I guess. I mean, does he have a right to be prime minister? But he doesn't know what that means. He has no clue what that means, right? He failed as a drama teacher. The only job that I know of that he was mildly successful at was being a bouncer. And I've worked with bouncers, and they all could do, rapid calculus compared to Justin Trudeau. Like they're brilliant compared to him. So it's the system itself. But that's the problem, because there's no leadership. And because the country's open to everybody, including our political structure. Like if Pablo Escobar was alive today, he'd be funding the Conservative Party of Canada because they want to work with anybody, right? Same thing for the Liberals. So why would like somebody like myself who's seen this movie before, and I have a friend who was living in Venezuela, heavily invested before Chavez got to power, and he's looking around here. He's just moved, and he may move again. He's looking around and he's telling me, Toronto is Caracas in 2002. That's what we have right now.
Ouch. So
So,
did he get
and this is
out
somebody
in
who's lost
Caracas? I
millions.
mean, so
Well,
did he get out of Caracas in the early
oh yeah,
2000s when
yeah.
Chavez got?
After
Go
they
ahead.
stole everything that he had, stole his real
Okay.
estate, stole the business that he made. He was worth, I don't know how many millions. It was in excess of $10 million worth of assets that he had in Venezuela. Very successful. I believe that was around the number. Um, and he was left with nothing. And that's where we're going here. So why would I put it into any physical asset? Like, that's the whole point. People say with gold, oh, I want something physical so I can touch it. Yeah, so someone can grab it from you. I don't want that. I want full autonomy. Do I sound like a prepper? I'm not a prepper, but
Well, you do sound a bit like a prepper, but I mean, no, but a prepper stays where he or she is, or moves to the country, moves to
Mhm.
a place where they can grow their own vegetables, solar panels. They get all their ducks in a row that allows them to be sustainable on the land. You're more like move into crypto, move into digital assets, and get myself in a position of being able to leave and go wherever I want and access my wealth without
Yeah.
having scumbags like Trudeau, rape me out of every nickel I have.
They in the Bitcoin community, they call it self sovereignty from a monetary perspective, meaning you have full governance of all of your assets and control of your assets, and you're not dependent on a government system. Like the Bitcoin blockchain, there's so many innovations, but it's self-governing. That's the whole point. You don't need a banking system. You don't need a government that's good administered. It self-governs itself. And that's what's allowing, like right now, they're having that Bitcoin conference in Venezuela, and not Venezuela, in El Salvador. And I know quite a few people that are down there right now. That's the idea. Those people who are now contemplating, hey, maybe I should buy a place in El Salvador, spend half my time here, or set up, and maybe I'll stay here if push comes to shove in the United States and in Canada with the regime of Biden and the Trudeau regime,
All right. So
right?
what is going on in El Salvador? Rather, like it's talk about these communities where zero income tax. It's just gone completely libertarian, and they've adopted. Well, I don't know. And they've gone crypto crazy. I mean, that's the currency. It's not the peso or whatever. It's just they're building. Libertarians are like building communities down there.
Well, okay, so there's a whole bunch of things to unpack there, but the short version is Nayib Bukele pushed for Bitcoin to be adopted as legal tender in El Salvador. And the reason he did that, in very simple terms, is because it's self governing, is both a currency and a bank account. So you don't need a bank. And 70% of the population were unbanked. So he thought our existing system of the banking structure is not serving 30% of, 70% of our country, the poorest people in our country. And this is an alternative for them. So let's make it legal tender. It'll force the mainstream banks to deal in Bitcoin. And now everybody has the means to actually start to save money, right? And what's interesting is that was September 9th, I think, is when it was finally legal. And they started rolling out Bitcoin to all its citizens, gave them, I think it was about $30, which is, economics of scale is probably around $300 to somebody in El Salvador, maybe more. And what's interesting is they're seeing the crime rate has started to go down to the point that last week, I believe it was the first time in decades, I think since the Civil War, where there was zero homicide one night. It was the first time ever. And that's a country that is known to be the most dangerous country in the Western world with the highest homicide rate. All of a sudden, it starts to collapse. Why? Because these poor people who were unbanked now have not only the ability to bank for themselves, but they don't have to deal with the faceless bureaucracy of the corrupt bank in their city. If you try to deal with banks in Latin America, it's a
Yeah.
nightmare. It's nothing like dealing with a bank in North America. It's completely different. People up here have no concept of how bad it is there. So that has solved the problem. And as you solve one main problem, which is the economics of poor people, and this is, I guess, this is kind of the motivations of the lefties, even though they take it overboard. But the idea is you help the poor people, and that's going to help society overall. Well, I've always believed as a conservative, you help the poor people economically and monetarily to be able to sustain for themselves, and then society will benefit. That seems to be what's happening right now.
Okay, well,
Um,
this is the story.
yeah.
El Salvador to create Bitcoin City, use $500 million of a planned $1 billion bond offering to buy more crypto. The issuance of the tokenized bond, which was developed by Blockstream, will be
Mhm.
processed by Bitfinex. I don't understand half of that headline.
You don't know who
Maybe,
Blockstream or Bitfinex are?
no. What the
All
heck
right.
is that?
Their exchanges. Don't worry. That's too complicated right now. Don't. But the point
Don't worry my
is,
pretty head about it. This is
don't
where
worry.
you're.
We'll get to that point. We'll get to that point. But the idea, the only concern I have over this is, here now we have a government program, and I'm like, yeah, I like kind of like the free market coming up with these things.
Yeah.
But okay, I'll give them a little bit of a pass, and we'll see. My guess is, knowing the people who are down there, they're quite libertarian, and there will be little government intervention. But the idea is they're going to build this jurisdiction where the residents will have zero income tax, zero payroll tax, zero property tax, and everything will be run off of Bitcoin. And they're going to pay their bills through these bond offerings and through a VAT tax system, I guess, for imported goods. And they're going to be, and what's interesting in El Salvador is they have a volcano there, and they're using hydrothermal as the energy source to convert it to electricity to mine the Bitcoin. So aside from the hardware capital costs and building the infrastructure, once that's paid for, just like mining on your own you can't really mine Bitcoin in your house anymore, but when you could, aside, the only cost you really have at that point is the electricity. But if they're getting electricity for free, then their cost of mining that Bitcoin is going to be minimal once the infrastructure is built.
How much of a threat is this, Benjamin, to the status quo, to the established financial system? How many people in their boardrooms on Wall Street and on Bay Street,
Mm-hmm.
in Ottawa, the people with the Fed are looking at this and going, these guys must be crushed, because the last thing we want is for this El Salvador model to be adopted elsewhere and starting to spread. Like, in their minds, they're probably seeing this like, back in the 60s and 70s when certain people were looking at communism, the spread of communism, go, it's got to be stopped. So now we've got the opposite happening. You've got these communists in power here, or pseudo communists, looking at Bitcoin and thinking this is a libertarian revolution here. We've got to stop this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I mean, the philosophical questions can be very deep because there's so much there. What's sad is, because those communists that you mentioned from the 60s and 70s now have spread across our entire education system and our institutions and our government, that our government has become the enemy. There's no other way to put it. I mean, government structure in itself is not, but it's the people who are in it right now who are making the decisions. They are the enemy if you value freedom. They really are, which is really deeply concerning. But for the establishment banking industry, there's two ways to think about it. One is, yeah, it's a threat and we'll fight it. Or the smart way, the macroeconomic way, would be, how could we use this to our benefit? How can we get on board and work with Bitcoin and make it an asset that we sell a service to our client utilizing Bitcoin? And I would argue, to the banking sector and to the the traditional financial sector, there's huge opportunities. Like, I've had the pleasure of trying to onboard my parents to Bitcoin and teaching them how to operate in the Bitcoin sphere, how to manage their Bitcoin and stuff. Have you ever done tech support with your parents? Because I got to tell
No.
you, it's painful. It's painful. So there's just a certain generation that struggles with this, especially if you're not in tune to tech like some younger people are, or people who grew up with tech. So
You were
there's
a
a huge
teenager.
opportunity.
You were a teenager once, by the way, Benjamin. So this is payback time.
Yes, but I've also had I've had a computer since, a pet emulator since I was 3 years old. So I've never not had a computer. But so the point is that those people are going to, it's kind of like, well, why doesn't everybody manage their own investment portfolio? Because some people just don't know how to do it, right? Some people aren't comfortable with it. Well, there's so much upside for our financial institutions to custodio Bitcoin for people and help them manage their digital asset part of their portfolio. Like, look at you. You go to the bank, okay? Would
Yeah.
you not be happier? Because we've gone through this Bitcoin a little bit. Would
Yeah.
you prefer doing what we're doing, which is, you're my parents, I'm tech support, and I'm walking you through it, right? So familiar. Or if you could walk into your local, well, you're in Florida, so Wells Fargo or TD or whatever, and say, give me my Bitcoin balance, and I want to transfer some US dollars into Bitcoin on my online banking. Wouldn't that be so much easier for you?
Sure.
So
But they don't
when you
want
say,
to. Banks don't want to know from Bitcoin. Not the
well, I
banks I
don't,
deal with.
no, I
But
don't think that's it. What we're
okay.
seeing is banks are heavily regulated and governments don't allow them to get into crypto. And that's the problem.
So you're
Well,
saying that, I mean, we got to wrap things up, but you're saying banks want to get into Bitcoin, but it's the regulators they're saying, "Oh no, you don't. You're banks, man. You do not go there."
Fidelity Investments has been mining Bitcoin since 2014. Yeah, of course they want to. It's an asset that makes money. It would be irresponsible for them to not get into this asset class and have those profits distributed to their client base, especially their VIP client base, right? They want it. The problem is there's so much regulation for banking institutions that right now it's impossible. So the only thing they can do is fight against crypto. But now that you see three mayors, Cynthia Loomis, all these people who are not, part of the Dr. Evil empire like Hillary Clinton, anyone else who's reasonable is saying, yeah, this is just another asset class and we should welcome it. We can work within the space and everybody can profit from it. What's the problem?
All right. Cool. Benjamin Dichter, thank you so much. I really appreciate this, man.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. I got to take a brief timeout, commercial break. Back with more on NewsTalk Saga 960 and the Mark Petroni Show after this.